Hi, my name is Joan and I'm here to introduce today's speaker. Please welcome Griffith University student Jasmine Tennant, who will be talking you through her presentation entitled The Furthering of Evolution, a Symbiotic Relationship.
As Joan mentioned, my name is Jasmine Tennant, and today I'm going to be discussing the furthering of evolution, a healthy symbiotic relationship. I'm going to be looking at technology and how it's affecting the medical industry. When I consider technology, I consider two main categories I would put these technologies into. One being assist and one being escape. Technologies that assist me in my day-to-day life and technologies that help me escape my day-to-day life. Technologies I put into the assist column would be phone, car, fridge, other machines and technologies that help make my life easier. Things in the escape column would be television, movies, Xbox, any computer games. What classifies a robot and how do you think they help? These are questions I'm going to try to address in the next 10 minutes. Virtual reality as a means of creating the illusion that we are present somewhere we are not. The history of virtual reality began in the 19th century with the panoramic paintings. These paintings were designed to help the viewer escape by taking up their entire line of sight, making them feel present in the event. From there, the Viewmaster was created in 1838, also known as the stereoscope by Charles Wheatstone. This is an example of a Viewmaster. I believe everyone will have seen one of these or had an experience with one of these before in their childhood. They created the 3D illusion by copying the picture in a 2D form twice, once for the right eye, one for the left, and this doubling of the image gave it a large depth of field, making it seem three-dimensional. In 1929, Link Trainer created the first flight simulator. In the 1930s, a science fiction book started handing out goggles with its prescription, which allowed you to pop the goggles on, read the comic strip, and the images would seem three-dimensional. In the 50s, Morton Heilig's Sensorama, which was designed to activate all the senses, so smell, touch, taste, everything. In the 1960s, the first virtual reality head-mounted display was created, which has then developed into the 21st century's version of this technology, which can be seen in the Samsung Gear virtual reality headset, which looks similar to this. So how does virtual reality affect the medical industry? Well, 1 in 5 people are diagnosed with a mental disorder. In most Western countries, this statistic rings true. It costs an estimated $2.5 trillion globally in loss of productivity and medical expenses. We combat these illnesses at the moment with medication, prescribed drugs. However, a downfall of this method is that doctors often overprescribe medication as a side effect of most of the medication for depression or anxiety or other things along the line of hair growth and weight gain, which then impact the patient even further, making them feel worse about themselves. It's a downward spiral. Once you're on the train, it takes a lot to get off, and you end up just taking a plethora of different medications to try and find the cocktail that works best for you. This is expensive and detrimental to the patient's health. So how does virtual reality help? Well, it was found that virtual reality therapy alone was as good as a combination of drug therapy and VR therapy. This negates the need for the drugs altogether and helps the patient better equip themselves with the skills to deal with issues in the future. An aspect of virtual reality therapy is EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So the patient comes in, pops the headset on, and then is asked to recall a traumatic event, something that made them feel depressed or anxious. And then when they begin to show vital signs that they are experiencing these feelings, a dot appears on the screen, and they are then asked to just follow the dot with their eyes. This, over time, desensitizes that emotion or that feeling and helps lessen its effects to the point where it is able to cure that person of possibly PTSD or another mental illness. It does this by distracting them when they have this feeling. So, what if virtual reality therapy could really help? Is there more evidence to show this? Well, virtual reality therapy does a lot with PTSD as governments have heaps of supports in place for the armed forces. After completion of virtual reality treatment, our patient no longer met criteria for PTSD, major depression, or any other psychiatric disorder upon examination from an independent assessor. This new medium of exposure therapy may hold promise. The results indicate that PTSD scores decreased following treatment. Both of these excerpts are from extensive papers done into research with VR therapy and PTSD and showed extremely promising results. So why isn't virtual reality therapy more streamlined and able to be accessed by the masses? Well, there isn't the funds to support it at the moment, and it's definitely something we should look into for the future. This technology is really changing the medical industry. So how else is technology impacting the medical industry? Well, you consider movies like Star Wars with characters like C-3PO and R2-D2 designed to translate and fix mechanic machinery. Then there's Big Hero 6 with Baymax, which is a machine designed specifically for health functions that activates whenever he hears keywords or feels the heart rate of the people in the room activate, whether this is for a mental illness or a physical illness. And then you have movies like Iron Man with the character of Jarvis, which is a non-physical entity that is mainly a cognitive machine. We have in today's society the IBM Watson, which is, I believe, a close representation of Iron Man's Jarvis. It's a cognitive system enabling a new partnership between people and computers. It's designed to lighten the load in fields such as medicine.
I've never said this on TV. Chicks dig me for 200, please, Jimmy.
Kathleen Kenyon's excavation of this city mentioned in Joshua showed the walls had been repaired 17 times. Watson.
What is Jericho?
Correct.
400, same category.
This mystery author and her archaeologist hubby dug in hopes of finding the lost Syrian city of Urkesh. Watson.
Who is Agatha Christie?
Correct.
Same category, 600.
At the Olduvai Gorge in 1959, she and hubby Lewis found a 1.75 million year old Australopithecus Boise-eyed skull. Watson.
Who is Mary Leaking?
You're right.
Now, one of the contestants you can see on the right there, Ken, actually goes to buzz in on the majority of these questions. He's what Jeopardy, which is the game show that they are partaking in, call a heavyweight. He scores in the 90 to 100th percentile for every single question he partakes in, and was quoted as saying he doesn't so much think about the question, more so tries to win the buzz-in and assumes he will know the answer. This competition really was a changing point for IBM because the Watson machine held its own. It actually won the competition, and that was a representation that it could cognitively think in the moment and process at human-like speeds. So how is this affecting the medical industry?
Make a difference. So let's look at a case of a physician with some kind of a handheld device being presented with a set of symptoms or chief complaints from a 58-year-old patient. And so here's a list of the symptoms that are reported. And let's take a look at how the Watson system is going to interact with that physician to assist in making that diagnosis. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to extract the symptoms from the record. So we're going to parse the record, and we're going to pick it apart, and we're going to interpret it, and we're going to try to extract what we think are the chief complaints or main symptoms the patient comes with. Then we're going to use statistical paraphrasing from text mining and other things because people describe medical conditions in very, very different ways, sometimes humorous, sometimes colorful, but it's a challenge sometimes to get that all back into a regular way of speaking. And then we perform a broad search just based on the symptoms for things that we think might be possible diagnoses. So you can see renal failure and UTI and diabetes as potential diagnoses that we've selected from just the raw symptoms, and you can see what we're going to do is we're going to develop columns of evidence. So this is about extracting evidence from the corpus of medical information by doing a back and forth dialogue between the doctor, the patient, and the Watson system.
It then goes on to do the same thing with family history, patient history, medication, and findings, adjusting accordingly.
To a very well-oiled and very rich dialogue where the human is guiding a lot of the real intuition and decision-making, and the machine at every step in that dialogue is providing basically the breadth of analysis of the entire set of the patient's medical record, the patient's history, the medical literature, drug side effects, things like that, to bring this much more nuanced view of the complexity of a medical diagnosis.
How is this helpful and how can it be used? Well, as you could see there, the Watson machine can process whilst the patient is talking or as the doctor enters the information. Why is this beneficial medicine? I'll give you some statistics on misdiagnosis. There are 140,000 misdiagnosed cases in Australia a year. 21,000 of those cases cause harm, and between 2,000 and 4,000 cause death. Why is this? Well, a lot of the time, diagnosis relies solely on the attending physician. It relies on their expertise, their access to patient data, how stressed they are, if they're distracted. They really have to be focused completely, and because we ask so much of our medical professionals, this isn't always attainable. Over 12,000 diseases according to the World Health Organization, and physicians are supposed to or expected to be up to date with each of these and remember all of the symptoms. This is almost impossible. No one would be able to do this. What the Watson does, as you could see from the previous video we watched, it correlates all the information it receives and then accesses all its databases from all of the medical journals, all of the information we have on all of these diseases, and does a little bit of a bar graph, as you could see on the right there, and adjusts as each bit of new information comes in. This takes the strain off the physician. He still then has to act because there's 5 possible choices or 2 most likely choices, and you must rule out each of those. But there was a case that was described by the doctor who assisted with creating Watson, and he said that him and his professor worked on a woman in her 50s. They could not find the cause of her condition. They had no real resources except their knowledge, and they ended up not finding the correct diagnosis until right down to the wire. It took them months and months, and this woman got worse and worse. Her condition deteriorated, and it took them months to figure out what was wrong. He took this information of this case and entered it into the Watson system, and her condition was listed as one of the top 5 possibilities. So there's real potential for this machine to make a difference, much like the virtual reality therapy. So, will technology impact medicine? Yes. Will it be a positive relationship? I really believe so. We've seen in this presentation that it's affecting areas all the way from mental illness to diagnoses. The benefits are endless. It will not take jobs, it will enhance them. It will mean that our medical professionals can do a better job and have less stress and strain on them. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. In the future, don't fear progression, embrace it.
And these are the references that I used for this presentation.